Call a meeting to order. First item is approve the May 12th, 2022 Planning Commission minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Brandy, will you call roll?
Yep, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, next we have the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I apologize. My voice is going to come in and out. So I apologize in advance. As you all know, we have been exceedingly busy. We're at 53 single-family residence permits since January 1st. No new commercial permits, but we still had the 7 from last year that are still under construction. I anticipate that we will see infrastructure and building permits at the McBee's Corner stuff. That process worked out well. They've already paid the fees to record the plat and sold it. They put up all their bonds, so that's progress is moving forward. There are 13 buildings at Eagle Ridge, which is 26 units under construction. The first ones will be ready for final occupancy probably in another 2.5, 3 weeks. And Diamond Creek, which is off of Manzanola and 6th Street, has got a little bit of work to do. And then they will be ready for open, and it will be a completely open subdivision. So they'll be selling lots to any builder, anybody that wants to buy and build. They are not gonna, they didn't build it for their own construction companies like some of the other stuff you've seen. And we're still working with Fairview Crossing to get traffic issues resolved with MoDOT and them and the city, sewer issues, et cetera. So we're making progress, but it's just, there's a lot of balls in the air. That's all I've got, unless you have questions.
I do have a question.
Yes,
On the convenience store.
Shamrock.
How
They-
close are they?
They just got their temporary C of O this morning. And it's temporary because the grass hasn't sprouted yet, but and my understanding is the operator that tore down his old place and started building this one has already sold this facility to a new operator. We don't know anything about who that is, though. So the original operator won't be operating. The other aspect of it is all the signs on it will likely change because it's a new operator.
Anybody else have any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is public hearing. Going to open a public hearing on rezoning lots 1 through 6 and the north 100.93 feet of lot 7, Wade Acres, from B3 to R1A. If there's any members of the public that wish to speak for or against the item, please identify yourself, give your name, your address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And I'll first ask staff if there's any information they want to provide first.
In the packet, you have my staff report addressing it. I'd like to kind of explain the onus of this, why we're here. This was zoned B3 decades ago, don't know for sure when. And it was from 169 to Main Street. It was all of the Wade's property, or most all of it. This was subdivided. Wade's Acres was subdivided in 1994 for houses. No one bothered changing the zoning. You're not supposed to build houses in the B3 district. However, this happened. One of the property owners was preparing to sell it and asked what could happen with some of his vacant lots. And the concern was brought up by me that, oh, I didn't even realize it was all B3. You know, this occurred in the 90s. So he and his 2 neighbors to the north have consolidated one application for all of the single family residential stuff in that area to convert it to R1A, which is the biggest of our single family residential lots. That's 100-foot minimum front yard.
Okay, clerk, do we have any comments?
Chairman Hyde.
Yes. And for the record, I'll need your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Truman Hyatt. I live on 18304 North Main, right here in good old Smithville. And this was a total surprise to us. We've lived there 22 years. And it was like, what? The neighbor decided to sell and found out. So we dug in our tax receipts, and I have a copy here that shows we have been paying residential taxes all the time we have lived there. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Walsh. I live at 304 Northeast Stanton Lane in Lee Summit, Missouri. My wife Dawn and I own property at 18209 North Main. So we're across the street from the properties that are in question. And of course, we'd like to see this corrected for our neighbors. And we're in the process of building our own home right across the street from the 5 acres that's currently undeveloped. And we would not like to see a business go in across the street. If you're not familiar with North Main, I'd ask you to consider at least driving from 180th to 188th Street. It's all single family dwellings. There's no commercial properties in there at all. So I'd appreciate your consideration of approving this application. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. No more. Seeing no more members of the public left to speak, I call the hearing closed. Move on to item number 5. Rezoning of lots 1 through 6 in the north 100.93 feet of lot 7, Waits Acres from B3 to R1A. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Pretty straightforward.
I just have one question. I mean, how is it that, they're paying residential taxes in its own like this? I mean, where'd the ball get dropped there?
When Clay County assessor goes out and sees it's a house, they
Okay.
Well, and you're taxed on the use of your property, not the zoning of it.
Oh, okay.
So there's a difference.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Because if you own a large farm that's zoned ag, your house and an acre charged at the residential rate. Everything else is charged at the ag rate. So an ancient oops, yes. And potentially a big one. That's the concerns that were identified in the public hearing were my concerns. Somebody could put a business there. So, and it's 5 acres. You can put a pretty big business on B3 zoned land.
there you
So
go.
that was the onus of this whole thing.
Any more questions? If not, Brandy, would you call roll?
Okay, Mayor Boley,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Billy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Aye.
Alderman Chevalier,
Aye.
and Rob,
Yes.
7-0.
This will go to the Board of Aldermen next week. The findings of fact and conclusions of law that you had in your packet will be submitted to them. It includes the ordinance for first reading. And I believe Mr. Brewer has requested a first and second reading emergency status on this because there's lot sales going on. So it may very well be first and second next one. I'm not
I'm
certain.
fine with that.
Yeah.
Save you the time asking. I'm fine with it.
I'll
to
put you on
item
the
number
sponsor.
6.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another public hearing. Going to open a public hearing on rezoning 211 North Bridge Street from R3 to B4. If there's any member of the public wish to speak for or against the item, please identify yourself, give your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and I will have staff provide an overview of the proposal first.
Thank you again, Madam Chairman. This is the first house on the north side of the bridge on the east side of the road. They are seeking to have their multifamily property with their single-family home on it changed to B4, which allows for both residential and commercial. They would like to open a business that's inside their home that they can't do under the standard home occupation. To the extent that this is a transitional area, streetscape preparing to go north. The Curry property across the road has all recently sold. This area is in transition. And if you look at page 2 of the staff report, you'll see the colorized version of the zoning map. B4 is all the orange on the south side of the river. The blue property is all multifamily, so apartment level. And then across the street from it is a B3 district, which is the Patterson House Museum. That's all I have. If there are any, I don't know if there's any member of the public here or not on this one.
I don't.
Yeah.
Since we don't have any, I'll go ahead and close the hearing. Move on to item number 7. Need a motion to rezoning to 11 North Bridge Street from R3 to B4.
So moved.
I have a second. Any discussion?
What kind of a business are they looking at?
They want to, I want to say some kind of plants and the like. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what it was. They want to have the ability to have customers come to the house. You can't do that anywhere else. For example, if you go south of the bridge on the west side of the road, that first house across from the church, it's a business now because it's in the B4 district. I think that was the onus, but I'm not certain what, it's some kind of selling plants of some type. I don't know.
That's what she told me.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Plants.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those aren't allowed that close to a church,
Yeah. And they have to be in B3 only.
which is allowed across the street at the church, wasn't it?
Seeing no further discussion, Brandy, would you call roll?
Billy. Melissa,
Aye.
Alderman Chevalier,
Aye.
Mayor Boley.
Aye.
Dennis. Dennis,
Aye.
Rob, Rob, sorry,
Aye.
and Deb. 7-0.
We'll move on to item 8, public hearing. I'll open a public hearing on rezoning lot 1, 8 acres from A1 to AR. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak for or against the item? Please identify yourself, give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And I will first ask staff to present an overview of the proposal.
This is an application to change the zoning to AR from from A1. A1 districts have a minimum lot size of 10 acres. AR district has a minimum lot size of 2 acres with sewer or 3 acres without. And the purpose of the rezoning is so that they can divide that lot along the Virginia side into 3 lots, the house and 2 more lots on the backside. The next public hearing on the agenda, next item is that, and it's all contingent upon this being rezoned. So
We have, seeing no members of the public left to speak, I'll call the hearing closed.
I think there is one, isn't there? I thought-
I think he more wants to talk about the subdivision part of it.
Oh, the subdivision, not the zoning. Okay.
You can go ahead and come up.
Come
Yeah.
up,
Sure.
okay. We'll open it back up.
Yeah.
State your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
David Payne, I live at 13904 North Virginia Avenue. A lot. 806 takes lot 2, which is right there. I've lived here for 35 years and the city's come in and said they had a composition plan that they wanted this area to look like where I live. And they said that they wanted green space, everything to be 10 acres or more. And everybody from the bridge there on Amory Road to Virginia and south is 10 acres or more, as far as I know. And I'd like to leave it the way it is myself, because I lived there 35 years. I don't care about having a neighbor sitting behind me. Yeah. And you know, and there's people behind me that have 40 acres, people across the road on Amory have 40 acres and stuff. What we're gonna do then? We're gonna start dividing it up in little big lots and making subdivisions or what? I mean, I just don't care to have this happen. And another question I had, is the property even perk? I mean, it's kind of a low area. So those are my questions and my thoughts are, I'd like to leave it the way it is, but I know it's tax dollars. That's all the city's worried about is tax dollars. So I don't know if I need to talk on any of these other ones, but they're all the same. I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Seeing no other members from the public, I will close the hearing and we'll move on to item 9. Do I have a motion for the rezoning of Lot 1, Ada's Estates from A1 to AR? Have a second?
Second.
Open it up for discussion, questions. I guess I have. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, to the comment that was made about the comprehensive plan, this does meet that. I mean, right, these are just single family homes on large lots, right? I mean, it's not.
Yes, the most recent one and the previous one, the immediately previous one. The gentleman had expressed, and he's been there for 35 years. We had the one 2 years ago. We had one in 2006, and the comp plan I'm talking about. Sorry. So we had a comp plan 2 years ago, 2006, and then prior to that, it was 1992. I don't know what the 1992 version said, because when I started work here, the 2006 was in operation. The most recent one, as shown in the staff report, identifies large lot residential or ag. And it defines large lot as not less than 3 acres.
But if I understand this correctly, this could rezone to 2 acres depending on the sewer. Is that right?
Yeah, if there were sewers available,
There's
then
not.
it could be 2 acres. There's just no sewers close.
Okay.
Probably a mile and a half. We'll have sewer, a mile away, there'll be sewers in about 6 or 8 years probably. But it's a mile and a half away. The cost to connect to that sewer versus the value you'd get if you divided it up into 2 acre lots would be limited. The other aspect of that is 2 acre lots wouldn't meet the comp plan. The comp plan requires them to be 3 acres or more. 3 acres. Yeah. And the gentleman also asked about whether they would perk. They don't get a building permit if they don't perk. And they went to a different system than the old perk test scenario. But if they can't get that permit from the Clay County Health Department for a septic system, they don't get a building permit. So. Yeah. Yeah.
A geologist come out and put, I mean, I drove on 3 acres in 1998 that in one land area.
Yeah.
And I had spent $10,000 on a geologist doing an engineering system.
Yeah. And well, and the perk test is no longer, they do a soil morphology test. And it's an engineering test, but those are conducted, like I said, by a soils engineer. And, you know, in the areas where they can't get that to happen, there's a new design where they build it on top of the ground and then cover it with proper soil. That's when they get into the $30,000 and $40,000 range for construction. But that is an acceptable method. Instead of burying it, lay it out over the ground and put decent soil over it so it'll.
There's one comment I do want to address because I do hear it too often. Tax dollar comment. Tax dollars on this property is going to be about $300 a year. What did we spend to fix Amory Road a couple years ago?
Um,
200,000.
Well, that was just for that fix. The
Yeah.
previous.
Yeah, the
fix.
$300 a year is not the motivation. It's property owners' rights to do so, what they want with their property.
I think the total on Amory Road rehabilitation since 2015 has been about 1 million.
So $1 million on Amory Road for 2 dozen houses max.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure. Got my math right.
Sir. Public comment is closed, but you didn't use your 3 minutes up, so I will allow you to go ahead and ask your question.
My question is, when you guys, the city changes their
Our comp plan.
Comprehensive plan.
plans, why don't we ever get notified?
There were several opportunities presented for people to come to a lot of the meetings we had. A lot of it probably was on social media.
It's in the newspaper.
In the
It's
newspaper. Newsletter.
It was a long process. I mean,
It was
wasn't-
18 months.
Yeah, it was 18-month process. So I mean, there was plenty of opportunity for the public.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seeing no more comments or questions, clerk, will you call roll?
Alderman Chevalier,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Billy. Rob,
Aye.
Deb. Dennis
Aye.
and Mayor Boley,
Aye.
7-0.
Moving on to item number 10. Public hearing on single phase final plat Dibbins Estates, 3 lots at Lot 1, Ada's Estates. Again, if there's any members of the public that wish to speak for or against the item, please identify yourself, give your name, address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. And first I will ask
Yes.
staff.
This is a 3 lot subdivision of roughly 11 and a half acres. The 2 new lots on the backside would be 3.81 acres. And the lot with the existing house would be 3.9 acres. Frontage would be onto Amory Road. We've placed a condition on the plat that in the future, that if there was to be a neighborhood improvement district for road improvements, that these lots would, similar to if you recall what we did at the Lakeside Crossing subdivision on annexation, a similar scenario. They would agree to join into that application, and it would be on their legal description of their plat.
Clerk, do we have any comments?
Unless he wants to speak again.
Same, Mr. Payne has, you have, he originally put it on for this part, so
Okay.
it's another public hearing. He has the same ability to discuss.
Once again,
I'll need your name and address again for the record, sir.
David Payne, 13904 North Virginia Avenue. I just don't care about it dividing up. I got 10 acres next door. Can I divide it up?
You have to go through the same process.
I mean, I I've got 350 foot of road frontage. That's probably not enough road frontage.
Yeah, yours would require you to construct some kind of road to get enough frontage. This one has it on Amory Road. That's the difference between yours.
I mean, at one time, the city told me they wouldn't let you do a flagpole lot.
Flag lots, yes. Yep. So doing the frontage on the road, it has to maintain that width for the lot. You can't put you see it in the county a lot where you have a 40-foot wide easement that goes up, 300 feet and then gets back to a 40-acre tract. You see some of them, to be quite frank, across the street from Mr. Payne's house, but in the county. You have those across the street on the areas of Virginia that's outside, but we don't allow it. You have to maintain that width of the lot on the frontage, which is
And
what they've done here.
What's the lot width?
It depends on the zoning. In this one, it's 300 feet.
Okay.
Excuse me, 200 feet in AR. If the zoning gets approved by the board, it would be 200 feet. And they've got 300 and something, maybe even more, 400 and something, it looks like.
We've got 2 roads.
Yeah, they've got 2 roads, so it makes it a lot easier for them.
Well, I'm just gonna ask you guys to vote it down because I mean, we've lived there for 35 years and everybody out there is on 10 acres or more. Unless you get to the north of Virginia and these subdivisions, which is, I don't know what they even call those subdivisions. They got 3 acres or 5 acres back there, but it's in the county. I'm just gonna ask you to vote it down because I'm not happy about it. I mean, if it's next to you, I don't know if you'd want it yourself, And I don't know what to do, I mean, I got property there. Am I gonna have people trespassing on my property, I got a pond back there. I'm not gonna have people coming over. I have to put up signs or whatever it takes. I'm gonna ask the board to not approve it.
We're still in the public hearing.
I move, seeing no other comments, I move that the public hearing be closed. We'll move on to item number 11. Do I have a motion and a second for the single phase final plat Dibbins Estates, 3 lots at Lot 1, 8 is Estates?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion, questions?
I'd like to say to the gentleman, I think everyone understands that change is difficult and that the loss of your surroundings causes some upset and perhaps some grief. And that comes to all of us. And not too long ago, Jack and I attended a seminar on zoning and housing. And one of the things that was told us is don't ever fall in love with what you don't own. And that's kind of harsh, but it's true. And I have been in your position to where I owned a beautiful piece of land and around me was subdivided. So I do understand. But the Devons have the right to develop their property if it's legal. And I wish you well, sir.
Somebody else had a question too. Oh, it was Billy.
So that's a gravel road.
No, all these are paved. Amory, it's Amory Road. No, we just spent about, like I said, about $1 million in the last year and a half. It's got, no, it's a full 8-inch depth asphalt.
Thinking 144th.
144th is gravel.
Amory's the one that goes past the entrance to it too. Yeah. Yeah, it's Aroma, we're
Yeah.
Aroma Bistro and all that is.
Yeah.
that road.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've driven a few times.
I know, I said.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, clerk call roll.
Okay. Mayor Boley,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Deb, Rob,
Aye.
Billy, Melissa,
Aye.
and Alderman Chevalier. 7-0.
On to item number 12, public hearing on a conditional use permit telecommunications tower at 904 Northeast 180th Street. If there are any members of the public wish to speak for or against the item, please identify yourself, give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And I'll first ask staff to do a presentation and overview.
Sure. This one, as I indicated some time ago, we haven't had one of these conditional use permit requests since 2009. So it took me a little bit of extra research to go back through the process and make sure I was following the same procedures that we needed to follow. Just so you understand, the process of this through notice, et cetera, is the same as a rezoning. And the approval process is the same as a rezoning. It goes through you with a recommendation on the findings. Based upon the findings, then there's an ordinance and it gets recorded with the county, just like it would a rezoning if it's approved. The steps of that process are identified in the staff report. And you have before you a draft of a potential findings of fact that bring those things forward. The two issues that are the big issue that you need to keep in mind is the code specifically says there is a limitation of 100 feet in height unless there's certain certifications provided associated with it, and you then would have the discretion to bring it to 150 feet. One of those is the co-location letter that was in your packet, and the other one was the well, I said it, now I'm going blank on what it is. The fall letter, the fall certification. You have both of those that were submitted in the packet. So they meet the minimum standards. It is within this commission's discretionary authority to grant that 150-foot monopole, which is an extra 50 foot in height. And the basis in the code, based upon what I can interpret from the writing of it, is that the only reason that the extra 50 goes is if more than one user can get on it. In this case, it requires at least 2 more than what was the initial user of it. And that's so that you can get better service for more users. So the rest of the application, you have the paperwork from Tillman Infrastructure, and you have my staff report associated with it. Ultimately, like we did several years ago and some of you will remember this, in the rezoning process, you have 7, 8 items that you have to make findings on. I've given you a draft of one. If you agree with those, you can make a recommendation to approve them. If you disagree with those, you can make a recommendation to amend any item in that. However you want to do that, that's again, your discretionary authority. That's all I have from a staff perspective. It was more of an overview of how this process works since we haven't done one.
Do we have any comments?
Hello, I'm James Alsbury. I'm here with my wife, Rochelle. Our address is 9200 Northeast 180th Street. 902, what I said. Little nerves. Okay, so I've got 3 minutes. I actually have 4 topics I want to talk about. And obviously they have to be brief because we have 3 minutes. The first bullet's going to be the unpleasant view of a 150-foot tower. The second one's going to be the maintenance workers and equipment using the shared driveway. The third is the reduction in home values, not only mine, our neighbors, but the other residents within the areas. And the fourth is health complications. So the first one is the unpleasant view of a 150-foot tower. So a 150-foot tower will be able to be seen from Grayhawk, Harbor View, Rock Point, and other adjacent neighborhoods. It is literally in our backyard, and I don't know if I can pass pictures around, but this is just a drawing of what it's going to look like. Can I pass that around or not? But that's what it's going to look like from our backyard, okay? But again, at 150 feet, we drove around and you can see it from all these other points. Second is the maintenance workers and equipment. The way to get to this tower is going to be through Gary Begg's driveway that is also shared by us and our neighbor across the street. So it's a shared driveway. So you literally have to come up the street, gravel driveway. You'll go past between mine and our neighbor's house to get to Gary's for this. There's a couple concerns with this. Over the years, we have all looked out for each other. When we saw unwanted vehicles or unknown vehicles, we would literally call each other and say, do you know who that is? Because we wanted to make sure everybody was safe. Now we will have no idea who's coming up our driveway, day or night, 7 days a week, 24/7. They have the right to do that. So we will have no idea if people are coming up to vandalize our property, steal our equipment, steal our livestock. This could be a nightmare. The second is the driveway itself is gravel. Okay, these are going to be large equipment trucks going up and down this driveway. In heavy rains, the driveway down towards the street washes out. We get big ruts. And Gary will come down and he'll grade it to make it look nicer and take care of it. But when we have bigger equipment going up and down, what's going to happen to this driveway that we have to drive down every day? The third about the driveway is the safety. You know, we have pets, we have grandchildren, we all go out and enjoy this. Now we have to worry about workers, work trucks, not paying attention to people around them, their surroundings, because they're not used to what this is. This is not a city road. This is a driveway. So this is a very large concern of ours. Next is the number two was the reduction of home values. I'm actually a home inspector. My wife is a licensed real estate agent. It is a known fact that houses that have the view of a cell phone tower, yes, ma'am. Sorry, over? That was 3 minutes. Okay. Rochelle, you get a hit on the rest.
Hi, I'm Rochelle Alsbury, 902 Northeast 180th Street. I guess I'll follow up with what he had. The reduction of the homes. Again, real estate agent, on a disclosure, you have to disclose certain things to your home. Right now, cell phone towers are not one of them. However, hazardous conditions, are you aware of any? Are there any environmental issues? Well, this could be an environmental issue. So if I have to mark yes, when I have to sell my land, is that going to affect the sale of my land? Any other conditions that affect the value of your property? Right on a home disclosure. Okay, so I'm just going back to that. My big thing is health. I'm not supposed to get emotional, so we're not going to. He's got heart issues. He's got spots on his lungs. Is this going to make it worse for him? Is it going to make it worse for all the outlying areas? And I'm not trying to play on your hearts. I'm just giving you the facts that it's known. There's no evidence because there's no studies, but they've studied in 28 countries that there is cancer related to cell phone towers, related to cell phones. When women put their cell phones down their brassieres, they get cancer in whatever side that is. I'm sorry? Okay, quarter mile. They say that you're not supposed to live within a quarter of a mile of a cell phone tower. That's a dangerous zone. I'm 450 feet. They're 200 feet. That's concerning to me. He was diagnosed with heart disease at 36 years old. He's been in and out of the hospitals. I don't want to lose him. I lost my mom to cancer at a very young age. I don't want to do that to my children and my grandchildren. My question to you is, would you want to look out your backyard to that? I understand you say the love. It's not the love of what I see. It's the love of what I have in my own yard. It's the love of my family. It's the love of my friends, my neighbors. I don't want to see anybody harmed by this. Again, what are the studies? Something I can throw to you as a city. There is monetary value to be gained by having a tower on the land. Why can't the city take that monetary value and maybe put it towards historical preservation for that schoolhouse, for the animal shelter? Because I know the animal shelter is working on trying to do some things. Why would you guys not want to put that someplace in a safe zone and take that monetary value and use it for good cause for the rest of the residents? Not me. I can't speak for the other landowner that was notified.
Your 3 minutes are up. Are you just about?
Just done.
Okay.
The other landowner that owns land up there, she could not be here tonight. She could not be on Zoom meeting. I have been in contact with her and she was supposed to be sending out an email of her concerns in opposition of this. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Gabe Ryder, 808 Northeast 180th Street. The property in question is directly behind mine. We share a fence line. In the zoning subsection, under telecommunications facilities, it lists out 5 criteria that need to be met. First one is encourage the location of towers in non-residential areas and minimize the total number of towers throughout the community. I'd like to point out that there's 5 towers within 5 miles. Actually, there's 6. Closest one being 1.9 miles away. Next one being 2.3 miles away. So number 2 is encouraged strongly the joint use of new and existing towers and sites. There's a water tower a mile away that you guys could rent out for this same purpose. There's already antennas on 2 of the water towers in Smithville and radios. Number 3 is encourage users of towers and antennas to locate them to the extent possible in areas where the adverse impact on the community is minimal. There's currently 9 properties that are contiguous to this property, with another one being planned. Not to mention as Grayhawk, Harborview, and the other surrounding neighborhoods will be able to see this. Number 4 on this list is encourage users of towers and antennas to configure them in a way that minimizes the adverse visual impact of the towers and antennas. So this is going to go 75. If it goes to the full 150 feet, 75 feet above, maybe even 90 feet above the tree line. So it's going to be seen from everywhere. I would like to point out the neighbors that just spoke, they received a letter to have a tower built on their property. They denied because they value their neighbors. My property is a watershed, which goes into Terry Evans' property. I take great care to make sure that I'm not putting chemicals down on my property going into his pond because I care about what happens in his pond. Can't say the same for the people in Grayhawk, but they're part of that watershed as well. I would ask you to please not recommend this for approval. and stop it here and not send it on to the Board of Aldermen.
Thank you. Seeing no more members of the public left to speak, I call the hearing.
I'm the applicant.
The applicant is on
Okay.
Zoom. I apologize for, he didn't have the ability to sign in.
I apologize. My name is Patrick Irwin. I am the applicant. One of my employees is present in chambers there this evening in case we had some technical difficulty. So I'd like to address a few of the concerns from the community. But first off, let me do tell you that Tillman Infrastructure is proposing this structure in order to facilitate AT&T's FirstNet system. For those of you that are not familiar with FirstNet, FirstNet is a nationwide wireless broadband network dedicated to public safety for use by first responders and public safety agencies. This proposed tower will provide a much needed service for the FirstNet subscribers, those first responders that in the area. And also in addition, many of the AT&T users of the network have complained over the years that service in this area is extremely lacking. And so that's the whole purpose of our application here today. I would like to address a few of the issues that some of the neighbors have brought up. The first is the issue of workers. I can tell you that once this tower is constructed, or if it is, workers will only be accessing the facility on about a monthly basis in a pickup size truck. All those trucks would be marked with AT&T or FirstNet decals. So you'd obviously be very well aware of who's there. As far as reduction in home values, every licensed appraisal that I have seen, we've done appraisal studies over the years, and I've never seen one that shows an actual quantifiable reduction in home values. And we would be happy to provide, I can provide one of them that I've done just recently in the last 18 months. And let's see, some of the other concerns. The health effects, I think we all know that that's something that we can't address legally by federal law and both federal and Missouri state law. Is there any questions that any of the commission has that I can answer? I'd be happy to.
This is a public hearing. It's not for debate at this point.
Okay.
It's just a public hearing. You're providing
Okay.
information.
Okay. That's all I have at this time. I'll leave it at that.
At this point, I'll go ahead and close the hearing. We'll move on to item 13, the conditional use permit for the telecommunications tower at 904 Northeast 180th Street. Do I have a first and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Chevalier.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion as I work with the telecom industry, and I don't want to get involved with that. Thank you.
Jack, are you able to comment on Gabe's comments regarding it not meeting our code?
I guess, I don't know that he said it didn't meet the code. He was asking you to consider that it didn't meet the code. Our staff report and the applicant's application address all of the items that are in the code. So I think he's just asking you to consider those. From my perspective, you have 8 items to consider in the staff report and the proposed findings of fact. Those are the facts you have to make. There's been a motion to accept those findings of fact to send them out. If you have a concern with any of those 8 items, now would be the time to address those 8 items, asking the question specifically.
So, Jack, one of the things I do see in the picture, and I also saw in the one they passed around, the property owner does have an existing tower on their property today, right?
Yeah, there's a ham up there.
Can I point out that that tower is also leased out?
I have a question regarding that first net for first responder system. Do we know if any of our first responders use that?
Well, my guess is no, because we don't have any towers that have it.
Have they,
We've discussed it before.
has it been
Being
discussed?
able to have the cellular service in the cars. We have some alternatives right now, but they're not great.
So this would be a positive supposedly.
Yeah, and as the applicant also mentioned, a lot of these are driven by people complaining about lack of service in the area. I did talk to some of the folks that live up there and they don't have good cell service. I'm sure some of the folks that commented may not use cell phones, but the ones that, a lot of them in that area have complained about poor service in that area. And our, also, as you know, our police department uses cell phones, so that's a concern as well.
And this would be an AT&T only tower, is that correct?
No, it specifically, it's an AT&T tower, but there is a specific requirement to get to 150 that they have to allow others to put their equipment up there so that we don't have a proliferation of towers. That way you can have up to 3 on that one tower, providing it 3 different servers for cell service.
That'd be a question for Chief.
Yeah.
We just replaced radios, so I know they can at least talk through the radio. So.
So they selected this property by sending letters out to everyone.
Well, I can't answer specifically how they selected this or why they selected this property. Usually it involves elevation, so you can get the biggest coverage. One of the public commenters mentioned that there's a water tower south of here, about a mile. We've had numerous people inquire about that over the years. To date, no one's taken it up. I think because it has great coverage for on the water of the lake, but it doesn't do as well when you start going north and east. This is kind of one of the high points in the general vicinity that picks up a lot of the area. This is not the first company to look up in that area. I've had, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've probably had 9 or 10 phone calls like this of people looking at stuff. This one, to be quite frank, did all their legwork before they even contacted me. They had already had their stuff, their ducks in a row ahead of time, so.
I can speak to the search process if it would benefit.
That's up to the chair.
I think that would be good to know.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So before we ever start out looking for locations, what happens is the engineers give us a latitude and longitude. And in this case, they give us a radius. And in this case, it is fairly small. They needed to be in a very defined area so that the way that this proposed structure would work with other adjacent towers in neighboring jurisdictions. And the first thing we do is we look for co-locations. We want to take the path of least resistance. So we go and find an existing tower that may be there. We go to a water tank that might work. In this case, the water tank that one of the neighbors referred to, it was too far away. A mile away is too far. We really needed to be within like 1,200 feet of the coordinates that we have. It's a very precise area. The way that technology is working, it is the way that the radios combine with each other. It's a very small area, and this area checks all of our boxes. The engineers actually, when we first proposed this location to them, they told us that they needed 200 feet. And we told them that 200 feet, there's no way that was going to get through the city. And so they said, well, we can, 150 gets us what we need, but it's not ideal, but it'll work. It'll get the first responders, the FirstNet system operating properly, which it is not right now. I hope that helps.
Well, I guess I'm going to say, I wonder, we still have a lot of ag land north of town. If that was not looked at as possible sites. And I guess I'll ask that of Patrick.
Yeah, so this is as far north as we can go. The ag land, I know exactly the areas you're looking at. They actually wanted to be a little further south than where we are. So it was kind of a compromise. This truly is, we don't want to upset neighbors. That's not a good thing for any of us. But we really feel that the way this parcel is located, set back from the road, with tree cover around it, a natural screening, that this was ideal. So to answer your question directly, any areas north of this parcel won't work for us.
Any more discussion, questions?
Are all of the neighbors on this shared drive responsible for maintaining it? I mean, it's not a county or city road, correct?
Yeah, correct. It's a private scenario.
Maybe there should be something entered into this that they address some of the issues if they're gonna be utilizing that driveway. As far as being a gravel at the end of a culvert set or putting a culvert in or something.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
If that's a shared driveway, then they need to share the responsibility in that too.
and I would certainly, that would be a issue between the property owners on it. One of them's got a potential lessee on it. So my guess is the owner of that underlying land, which is Mr. Beggs, would be responsible for any damage done by the tenants. Just like if you were renting it out. So my guess is whatever the existing scenario is would address that. But like I said, I'm unaware of any private agreements on it, so.
I guess I want to go back to my question to Patrick on the ag. Was there nothing on the west side of 169?
I would have to relook at our search area. And I apologize, I don't have that with me. But I could relook at it and give you a direct answer, but off the top of my head and off the cuff, if I tried to give you an answer, I would really be guessing on that. I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
What information would you like?
Is there an alternative site that would work as well or better? I believe on the west side of 169, there is a good avenue.
look at the map, there's quite a few houses there too, so. It's Brandywine's there, there's quite a few houses on 179th, there's Whiskey Ridge,
But if you go north of H&H Lake,
and it's Rock Creek,
on the
And
west side.
Landmark Farms.
yeah, Landmark Farms.
And they would still need an owner to agree to it.
I'd request that the audience refrain from making comments when it's not public comment.
Any more discussion? Clerk call roll.
Okay, Mayor Boley,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Rob,
No,
Billy, Melissa.
No.
Okay, we've got 3 yeses and 3 nos.
No recommendation one way or the other, it looks like. I'm not 100% certain the legal ramifications, how we move forward, but obviously it's 3-3. We have nothing further to do here. I will contact the applicant. I assume this goes to the Board of Aldermen with a 3-3 vote, which doesn't support it, but we'll address that with legal and get that addressed. The hearing on this would be then 1 week from today, sorry. It just dawned on me that, yes, so the plan, the Board of Aldermen, it would be Tuesday night, same time, same place, next week. So we'll have an ordinance before with a recommendation of 3-3, no pass. That's all we have.
Seeing nothing else, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Need a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All
Second.
in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned.